The neon sign outside flickered against the twilight sky, spelling out Millie's Diner in warm, buzzing letters. Inside, the faint hum of conversation mingled with the soft clinking of cutlery against ceramic plates. It was the kind of place where time seemed to stand still, nestled in the heart of a small town, far removed from the relentless buzz of city life. Elon Musk pulled into the gravel parking lot, stepping out of his understated Tesla sedan. He wore a simple pair of jeans, scuffed sneakers, and a gray hoodie with the hood loosely draped over his head. He'd left behind the corporate chaos and flashing cameras for a rare, quiet road trip. Tonight wasn't about fine dining or grand gestures. It was about comfort. Grilled cheese, a bowl of soup, and a few moments of anonymity. The bell above the door jingled softly as Elon entered. The warm aroma of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee greeted him. A couple of truck drivers sat in a booth near the window, their plates piled high with pancakes. A lone mother juggled a restless toddler and a cooling cup of coffee. Behind the counter, a cook in a grease-streaked apron flipped burgers on the griddle. Nobody glanced twice at Elon as he slid into a corner booth. His casual attire and quiet demeanor blended seamlessly with the humble atmosphere. That's exactly how he wanted it. A waitress walked by, leaving a laminated menu on his table without pausing to make eye contact. Elon picked up the menu, scanning its modest selection. It was refreshingly simple. No gourmet salads or artisanal flatbreads here, just hearty, no-frills food. He settled on a classic combo, grilled cheese and tomato soup. A faint smile tugged at his lips. The meal reminded him of childhood, of simpler times. When the waitress returned to take his order, he gave her a polite nod. "Grilled cheese and tomato soup, please, and a glass of water." She jotted it down quickly and walked away without a word. Elon leaned back in his seat, his gaze wandering across the diner. He watched the ebb and flow of life around him, savoring the rare chance to simply exist without scrutiny. For now, he wanted just another diner at Millie's. Jessica adjusted her apron and sighed, her shoulders sagging under the weight of a long day. It was her fourth double shift that week, and every muscle in her body screamed for rest. But there were still hours to go, and the evening crowd was rolling in. She tugged a stray strand of hair back into her ponytail, her movements brisk but heavy with exhaustion. "Table 6 is asking for more syrup again," a coworker called out from the kitchen. Jessica rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, "Of course they are." She grabbed a syrup dispenser from the counter and made her way to the booth. "Here you go," she said, placing it down with just enough force to make a point. The man sitting there gave her a sheepish smile, but she didn't linger. She had other tables to attend to. Jessica had been working at Millie's for 3 years, long enough to have perfected the art of balancing 10 plates of food with a single glare that could quiet the rowdiest customer. She was sharp, quick-witted, and unapologetically blunt. Her co-workers admired her for it, though it often rubbed certain diners the wrong way. By now, her patience had worn thin. Earlier in the day, a group of college kids had left her a mountain of ketchup packets to clean up, and a particularly rude patron had loudly complained about her attitude. Tonight, she wasn't in the mood to sugarcoat anything. "Hey, Jess, that guy in the corner booth looks like he hasn't smiled in a decade," one of the other waiters teased as she passed by. Jessica glanced over at Elon, who was quietly flipping through the menu. "He's probably just another tightwad," she said with a shrug. "They're all the same." Her tone was sharp, but not mean-spirited. It was her way of coping with the grind, turning frustration into humor. But underneath the tough exterior, Jessica was deeply tired. Tired of rude customers, tired of long hours, and tired of feeling unappreciated. When she dropped off Elon's order, she barely looked at him. "Grilled cheese and soup," she said curtly, setting the plate down and heading off before he could respond. Jessica didn't know it yet, but this quiet customer with his unassuming demeanor was about to upend her entire day and her perspective. Elon settled into his booth, the laminated menu resting lightly in his hands. He took his time scanning the modest offerings, his eyes landing on the grilled cheese and tomato soup combo. There was a certain simplicity to it that appealed to him, a meal that carried no pretensions, just comfort and nostalgia. Jessica returned to his table, her notepad ready, though her expression barely masked her exhaustion. She clicked her pen and waited, giving no hint of a warm greeting or casual inquiry about his day. "I'll have the grilled cheese and tomato soup, please," Elon said, his voice calm and polite. He added, almost as an afterthought, "And just water." Jessica scribbled down the order without looking up. "Got it," she said curtly, then turned and walked away before Elon could say another word. Her brisk demeanor didn't bother him. He wasn't looking for small talk or unnecessary pleasantries. He was here for a quiet meal, nothing more. But to Jessica, his lack of fuss or engagement was just another mark of an unremarkable customer, another body in a booth, eating and leaving without a second thought for the person serving them. As Elon waited for his meal, he observed the ebb and flow of the diner. Jessica moved quickly between tables, her steps brisk but heavy. Her interactions with other customers were sharp but functional, a balancing act of efficiency and restraint. When she returned with his order, she placed the plate and glass of water in front of him without so much as a glance. "Grilled cheese and soup," she announced flatly, turning on her heel before Elon could thank her. Elon picked up his spoon, dipping it into the steaming tomato soup. The rich aroma filled his senses, and he allowed himself a small smile. The meal was exactly what he needed, warm, simple, and grounding. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, as Jessica flitted between tables, her patience visibly wearing thin with each passing interaction. To her, he was just another customer. To him, she was a young woman clearly carrying the weight of a long, hard day. When Elon finished his meal, he neatly folded his napkin and reached into his pocket, pulling out a crisp $10 bill. He placed it under the edge of his plate alongside the check. The meal had been modest, and the service, while efficient, was unremarkable. He felt the tip was appropriate and fair. Jessica approached the table to clear his dishes. She grabbed the plate and spotted the bill beneath it. Her eyes narrowed as she registered the amount, a tip she deemed far too small for the effort she believed she'd put in. She scoffed audibly, the sound cutting through the low hum of the diner. A couple of nearby patrons glanced up, curious about the source of her irritation. Jessica muttered under her breath, but loud enough for anyone nearby to hear, $10? Really? Guess Mr. Hoodie over here thinks service runs on fumes. She carried the dishes to the kitchen, her movements sharp and filled with annoyance. The comment wasn't meant to be cruel, but frustration had gotten the better of her. She didn't notice the quiet shift in the diner's atmosphere, as other diners exchanged awkward glances. At his booth, Elon remained calm, his expression unchanged. He had heard her remark, but chose not to react. Instead, he observed quietly as Jessica continued her shift, her irritation manifesting in brisker steps and clipped responses to other patrons. Jessica's assumption about the tip wasn't just about the money. It was a culmination of her exhaustion and the belief that her effort hadn't been valued. To her, Elon was another in a long line of ungrateful customers. But to the other diners, and to Elon himself, the moment was more telling than she realized. Little did Jessica know that her public frustration was about to set off a chain of events she could never have anticipated. Jessica's frustration simmered as she bustled about the diner. She couldn't shake the annoyance of Elon's tip. So modest it felt more like an insult than a gesture of gratitude. As she passed by the other waitstaff at the counter, she couldn't resist venting. "Can you believe it?" she said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "That guy in the hoodie, he leaves me a $10 tip, $10, for an entire meal." One of her co-workers, a younger waitress named Maddie, gave her a hesitant smile. "Maybe he didn't know what to leave?" Maddie offered, clearly trying to de-escalate. But Jessica wasn't in the mood to let it slide. "Oh, please," Jessica snapped, her voice tinged with sarcasm. "You don't walk into a place like this and not know how tipping works. What, did he think we're running a charity here?" Her voice carried across the diner, drawing the attention of other patrons. A few glanced over at Elon, still seated quietly at his booth, his expression calm and unbothered. Some of the diners chuckled nervously, unsure whether to join in the mockery or stay neutral. Jessica continued, unable to stop herself. Seriously, look at him. Hoodie, sneakers, doesn't even make eye contact, and then leaves me $10. What a joke. At this point, a few customers exchanged uneasy looks. Maddie nudged Jessica gently. Maybe you shouldn't. But Jessica waved her off, her sharp tongue still in full swing. No, really, I mean, what's his deal? If you're going to eat out, at least have the decency to tip like you're not still in college. Elon, meanwhile, remained composed. He made no effort to respond or defend himself, simply observing Jessica's escalating frustration. His silence only seemed to fuel her indignation, as if his lack of reaction was a challenge she couldn't ignore. The air in the diner grew tense, the laughter dwindling as diners began to realize the situation was becoming more uncomfortable than amusing. Jessica, still unaware of the gathering storm, shook her head and muttered, "Unbelievable." As Jessica moved on to another table, a diner sitting nearby leaned toward her, lowering their voice. "Hey, are you sure you know who that is?" Jessica frowned, pausing mid-step. "What are you talking about?" The diner, a man in his 40s, gestured subtly toward Elon. "He looks a lot like Elon Musk." Jessica blinked, then laughed, a short, dismissive sound. "Elon Musk? In my section? Eating grilled cheese and leaving a lousy tip? Yeah, right." The diner didn't laugh along. "I'm serious. Look at him. It's not just the face, it's how he's sitting, how he's watching everything. That's got to be him." Jessica rolled her eyes and shook her head. "Okay, sure. Elon Musk decided to swing by this tiny diner in a hoodie to order soup and insult me with a $10 tip. Makes perfect sense." The man shrugged, but didn't seem convinced by her dismissal. "I don't know, just saying. If it is him, you might want to think twice about what you're saying." Jessica scoffed, waving the idea away as she returned to the counter. "Right, and I'm Beyoncé." She grabbed a fresh coffee pot and turned back toward the tables, her confidence unwavering. To her, the notion was absurd. Elon Musk? Here? It was easier to believe her instincts. He was just another cheapskate customer with no sense of gratitude. But as she passed by Elon's table again, a flicker of doubt crept into her mind. His calm demeanor, his quiet observation, it didn't quite fit the image of a stingy diner patron. Still, she pushed the thought aside, determined not to let the possibility shake her. Jessica didn't realize it yet, but the storm she was brushing off was about to crash down, and her certainty about who she had just insulted would shatter in an instant. Elon finished his water and neatly placed the empty glass on the table alongside the bill. He reached for his hoodie, pulling it over his shoulders with quiet deliberation. He had long since stopped being bothered by public scrutiny, but tonight was different. The weight of Jessica's sharp remarks didn't anger him. If anything, they intrigued him. People's assumptions always had a way of revealing their character. As he stood to leave, a younger staff member named Maddie happened to glance his way. Her eyes widened slightly as recognition dawned on her. She grabbed her phone, swiping quickly to bring up a recent news article she had read. The photo showed Elon Musk at a tech conference, dressed casually, but unmistakably him. She looked from her screen to the man standing at the booth and felt her breath hitch. Maddie hurried over to the counter, where Jessica was topping off a pot of coffee. "Jess," she whispered urgently, tugging on her sleeve. "What?" Jessica snapped, barely looking up. "That guy?" Maddie pointed subtly toward Elon, who was now pulling out his wallet to settle the bill. "I think that's Elon Musk." Jessica let out a loud laugh, clearly thinking it was another joke. "You too? First table 5, now you? Why is everyone obsessed with this guy tonight?" "I'm serious," Maddie hissed. "Look." She held up her phone, showing Jessica the photo. Jessica stared at the screen, then slowly turned her gaze toward Elon. Her laughter faded as the resemblance became impossible to ignore. The way he carried himself, the calm, quiet observation, suddenly seemed all too familiar. Her heart sank as she watched Maddie timidly approach Elon at the register. "Excuse me, sir," Maddie began nervously. "Sorry to bother you, but are you Elon Musk?" Elon looked at her, his lips curling into a polite smile. "Yes," he said simply, sliding a credit card across the counter to pay his bill. Jessica's face turned pale. The room seemed to tilt as her mind raced back to everything she had said about him, the mocking, the public remarks, the judgment. It was him. The richest man in the world had been sitting quietly in her section while she openly insulted him. As Elon left the diner, a hushed murmur rippled through the remaining patrons. Jessica stood frozen, her coffee pot trembling slightly in her hand. The realization had struck like a bolt of lightning, and the damage was already done. The moment Elon walked out the door, the diner erupted into whispers. Patrons reached for their phones, frantically typing tweets and uploading blurry photos they had taken during the exchange. Within minutes, social media was ablaze with captions like, "Waitress mocks Elon Musk over a tip, awkward," and "Elon Musk eats grilled cheese, gets humiliated." Jessica's coworker Maddie stared at her phone, her face a mix of disbelief and panic. "Jess," she said, her voice shaking, "this is already online." "What?" Jessica asked, snapping out of her stunned silence. She rushed over to Maddie, snatching the phone from her hands. Her heart dropped as she scrolled through a flood of posts about the incident. Photos of Elon in his hoodie sitting at the booth were paired with snippets of Jessica's scathing remarks. Some users were defending her, saying tipping culture was flawed, but many others were appalled by her behavior. "This waitress just publicly humiliated one of the most influential people in the world," one tweet read. "Talk about a career-ending move." Jessica's hands shook as she opened Instagram and saw her face already plastered across stories and reels. No, she muttered, her voice rising. She quickly tried to find posts to report or delete, but the content had already spread too far. Maddie placed a hand on her shoulder. "Jess, I think it's too late." Jessica's panic spiraled as her coworkers avoided meeting her gaze. Diners whispered, and the staff cast nervous glances her way. She had gone from tired waitress to the center of a viral moment in mere minutes. The pit in her stomach grew heavier as she realized the truth. This wasn't just an embarrassing incident. It was a public spectacle, and she had become the villain in a story that was spreading faster than she could control. The next morning, the small diner buzzed with tension. Jessica hadn't slept. Her phone had been inundated with notifications, and the news of her incident with Elon Musk had escalated overnight. She avoided her coworkers' glances, dreading what awaited her as she walked into work. Just as the staff began to settle into the day's routine, the manager appeared, holding a crisp envelope with a distinctive Tesla logo embossed on the front. "This came in for us this morning," he said, his voice tinged with curiosity and nervousness. The staff gathered around as he opened the envelope and unfolded a handwritten letter. The words were elegant and thoughtful. "Dear Millie's Diner team, thank you for the meal yesterday. Your diner has a welcoming charm, and I appreciated the simplicity and warmth of your space. While I sensed some discomfort during my visit, I believe moments like these are opportunities for growth, for all of us. Kindness and humility are values I try to live by, though I don't always succeed. Yesterday reminded me that everyone carries burdens we may not see, and judgment often comes from misunderstanding rather than malice. Please accept this as a small gesture of gratitude. Enclosed is a donation for your staff, to be used as you see fit, whether for bonuses, improvements to the diner, or anything else you feel would make a positive impact. Additionally, I've included a personal gift for Jessica. I hope it helps her pursue her passions and find joy in her work. Best wishes, Elon Musk." The room fell silent as the manager revealed a check enclosed with the letter. The amount was staggering: $50,000 for the diner staff and a separate $10,000 check made out to Jessica. Her name, handwritten in Elon's elegant script, stared back at her like a beacon. Jessica's hands flew to her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. The enormity of Elon's grace and generosity hit her like a tidal wave. She hadn't just been forgiven, she had been given an opportunity to grow and improve her life. The manager, usually stoic, softened as he turned to her. "Jessica, looks like he saw something in you that you might not see in yourself." Jessica nodded, unable to speak through her tears. In the days that followed, Jessica couldn't shake the overwhelming mix of guilt and gratitude. Elon's letter was taped to the break room wall, serving as a daily reminder to the staff about the power of kindness and understanding. The diner buzzed with a newfound warmth, and even regular patrons noticed the change. Jessica spent hours reflecting on her behavior. She'd been so quick to judge Elon based on his appearance and tip, never pausing to consider his perspective. Now, with his generosity as a backdrop, she saw her actions in stark contrast to his. One evening after her shift, Jessica sat down to write her own letter. Her hands trembled as she carefully chose her words, pouring her heart into the message. "Dear Mr. Musk, I owe you a deep apology. I was wrong to judge you and to speak out of turn without understanding the person sitting in my section. Your kindness and generosity have shown me what true grace looks like, and I'm humbled by the lesson. The gift you gave me isn't just financial. It's a second chance to do better. I plan to use the money to pursue a culinary course I've dreamed of for years, and I promise to carry forward the kindness you've shown me. Thank you for teaching me that humility and understanding are far more valuable than quick judgments. I hope to one day make a positive impact in someone's life, just as you've done in mine." With gratitude, Jessica mailed the letter the next morning, feeling lighter than she had in days. She couldn't undo her mistake, but she could ensure that it shaped her into a better person. The diner, too, transformed. Inspired by Elon's gesture, the staff embraced a culture of kindness and empathy. Customers noticed the difference. Smiles came more easily, and service felt more genuine. The diner even hosted a community event funded by Elon's donation, bringing people together in a celebration of shared humanity. As Jessica flipped pancakes one morning, she overheard a customer saying, "This place feels different, better." She smiled to herself, knowing that the change wasn't just about the diner, it was about her. In the end, Elon Musk's unexpected visit didn't just leave an impression on Jessica. It sparked a ripple effect of compassion, proving that even the smallest interactions can lead to meaningful transformation. Want to hear more of this? Then click on the video on the right-hand side, which is even more insane.